Hello, and welcome to Visiting Dugout, a Fans First Sports Network production. I'm Chrystal O'Keefe, that is Willow being grumpy, and I have my friend Jesse on to chat about the Mets. Hello!
Hi, thanks for having me.
Of course, of course. For those who might not know you, do you mind saying who you are?
Sure. Many moons ago, was the baseball writer for the Sporting News. It's probably where most people would know me from back in the early 20 teens. Before that, I was at the New York Daily News. I did a bunch of freelance since then, and we have worked together on projects with Casual Diehard, and I produce, in very, very light terms, Dugout of History with you and Colleen.
I was about to say, you lightly produce, we lightly provide history. We're all
It's
a
a good
mess.
show. It's fun. I should probably be a better producer for it and actually do things, but yeah, no, it's fun.
It's okay. We love it. I have that on my list to actually decide what I'm even doing for next week's episode. Who knows?
Looking
Because it's a
forward to it.
Chrystal episode with like a jet lagged Colleen. So we'll see what happens.
Cool.
Should be great. um, so I could probably answer all of these questions, but I don't want to talk to myself. So we're going to talk about the Mets.
Okay.
We'll pretend for the sake of this podcast that we don't have all of this random Mets stuff behind me.
Are we on video?
Well, I mean, nobody really watches the video.
All right. Well, I got my jersey from the game that I went to. This was a giveaway. Good giveaway, like a hockey jersey, Clay Holmes
Oh, nice.
uh deal. And they
I
won.
just,
So
when I was in New York, I just bought 2 of the City Connect jerseys. I got
nice.
a Pete and I got a Lindor. They're beautiful. And I got this beautiful, beautiful Mr. Met.
Yes.
And
Wonderful.
it lights up. My husband found that out. Oh, look at that. See?
Oh, cool.
Very cute.
Orange blue.
We love him. It was his birthday. So it was a special, special game. Anyway, so what's new with the New York Mets?
Well, they have picked a good time to have their we have some flaws and we need to figure them out month. Uh, they were great in April and it was fantastic. And right now, the Knicks are in the Eastern Conference Finals, so there's a little bit less spotlight on a struggling baseball team, but they've been like 500-ish team for most of May. Um, And Juan Soto hasn't been hitting, which is not something that you worry about unless you're an idiot or need to create content for clicks. So if you pay attention to the talk radio sphere, it's like a big crisis moment for the Mets. They're a good team that's having a lousy month, and they were never going to be as top of the world as they were in April all season. And I think that, in addition to injuries happening, just like there's some regression to the mean, but there's also yeah, there's some flaws here. Starling Marte is I love him, but he can't be the guy that you go to as the number 2 hitter to shake things up
No.
in the lineup at this point in his career. Like he's trying his best, but they need another bat. The pitching is still great. The bullpen has been a blessing from the heavens, but they also need that spark. And I think that they played the Dodgers on Friday night, and thank goodness I don't have Apple TV Plus and was just listening to it on the radio because they played until about 1 in the morning after an hour and a half worth of rain delays at the beginning and did not score in the 10th, 11th, 12th, or 13th innings, despite having the free base runner. Like runners with scoring position has been a problem for them. And yeah, you've got time to work that out. And I think that if you're unhappy with 10 games over 500 on Memorial Day weekend, you need to re-examine what it is that makes you happy.
Please touch grass.
Yeah.
That was one of the biggest things because I was very excited, obviously, to see Soto in a Mets jersey when I was just there about a month
It
ago.
rules.
And the people around us, it was just like he's the worst person. Like you would think that he's the worst player to exist. The way a lot of these Mets fans were talking about him. He'd go up to bat and people are like, oh, he sucks. And I'm like,
Yeah.
shut up. No, he doesn't. Leave this man alone.
And people also are just so good at memory holding everything because, like, the first couple of months of Francisco Lindor as a Met just a few years ago, same deal. It takes time to adjust, even if you're just coming from across town with the Yankees. Like, you've got a whole new routine. You've got to deal with these expectations. You're adjusting to batter's eye, the way that, you go through your routines every day. It's the least uncommon thing for somebody switching teams to get off to a slow start, or even if they got off to a fast start, to have like a little doldrums time after the initial adrenaline wears off. Like,
I feel like that
it's a
happened.
162 game season. Yeah.
I feel like that happened too right after Edwin came back off injury, and he was not necessarily himself, and people were overreacting. And I'm like, no, he's fine. He was just injured. Calm down.
Yeah, and the other thing is, this is a very New York, Philadelphia, Boston thing, I think, is that you don't care about the overall when you're at the game. If something happens at the game that you are at that makes you unhappy, you are going to boo and you are going to overreact and you are going to vent the stress of the rest of your life upon the men in pajamas in front of you. And that is, I think, overall a healthy thing. Whereas, like, you go to a game in Chicago even, and it's like, that sucks. But it's not directed at the player the same way. I think it is here. It is here. It is, with the Phillies, with the Red Sox. Just that's the Northeast little way of how we connect with sports.
Can confirm. I have not been to a Phillies game, but as someone who's been to see the Mets, the Yankees, and the Red Sox, it's brutal there.
The Phillies and the Mets are like the Romulus and Remus of the National League. Like, they are just separated birth, doomed to forever be rivals with one another, but ultimately of very much the same cloth, and can all agree, F Atlanta generally.
Yes, always. So, moving over towards what the Mets did in the offseason.
Mhm.
Did it appease the gods? Could there have been anything better that actually happened? Obviously, Soto's a pretty big grab. Alonso came back. Was there anything that could have been better, or was it just really good overall?
I mean, it sucks that Frankie Montas and Sean Manaea, and bringing back Sean Manaea was a huge deal. They've both been hurt, so that sucks, but they should be back. I think, yeah, that extra right-handed bat, I think, to go with Pete, to go, Lindor is better from the left than he is from the right. And to go with Nimmo, quite frankly. It's really a Pete Alonso is your right-handed bat situation, and I think that they could have used another one. I think, like, they brought back Jesse Winker too, but he's a lefty. But that is something that you can address during the season. Last year, they encountered a similar need, and they did sign JD Martinez late in spring training, and he became a big part of what they were doing. I think they need that sort of impact bat. Maybe somebody who's not as old, maybe somebody who's already having a good season, and that's what the trade deadline's for.
So with that, and with the trade deadline in mind, they were very hot in April.
I'm not hearing you.
Oh, can you hear me now? Weird. Hold on.
Still not.
What
Now
about
you're moving,
now?
now you're not. Oh dear.
You break everything, Jesse.
I've lost you.
We'll pause. Hold on.
Still not here. Okay.
Okay, we're back after a technical difficulty. So as I was saying, we had a very hot April. We're working through some kinks in May. We've got the trade deadline that will eventually approach. So how do you feel about this season for the Mets. Do you think this will be one where they actually do go pretty far?
Yeah, I mean, they went to the NLCS last year, and it's hard because like it's really hard to get to the NLCS in the first place. And I think that if you're the Mets, you're going to be confronted with what constitutes a successful season. Um, Winning the division is definitely, something that you want to. This team has the ability to do. They should be right there with the Phillies all through the summer. I expect Atlanta will make a run too, but it should be tight for the division. If you win the division, does that take any of the pressure away in the playoffs? If you're the wild card team, like if this team is bounced in the wild card series, I think that's a disappointing season.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if they win the division and get bounced without winning the series, without winning the division series, and that's not to say that because you could win the division and still not make it to the division series. I think you've got to get to at least the DS if you're the Mets, for this to be a successful season. I think that would mark me as low on the list of like where people think expectations should be. But I think I'm trying to be realistic about like there's like the Dodgers, the Padres, the Cubs, the Phillies are all really, really good. The Giants aren't too bad either. Like it's a good National League, and it's going to be hard to be one of the last two teams, let alone win the pennant, let alone win the World Series. Is it a team capable of winning the World Series? Yes, but there's several teams that are capable, and I don't think anybody has better than like a 15 to 20% chance of doing it. So you have to set your expectations reasonably, I think, to avoid being thoroughly disappointed by what is a reasonable result. Otherwise, you're just setting yourself to be mad, and maybe that is what some people want out of the experience. But I don't know. I'll enjoy the Mets winning 95 to 105 games. That's cool to me.
Yeah, as someone who dealt with the White Sox last season, winning or losing so many games, I set my expectations to negative,
Hmm.
and have been pleasantly surprised that they've been not the worst team in baseball.
How do you feel about the Rockies putting on an instant challenge?
It it's so weird because I have no ill will towards the Rockies.
No,
I have no ill will despite being a White Sox fan. I have no ill will towards Chris Bryant. And I was really bummed to see that he kind of went to Colorado to just die. That's what it feels like. He just went there to die.
his body is the Blues Brothers car.
It is. And I feel for him as someone
Yeah,
who has degenerative disc disease like he does. I feel for him. I have no reason to be playing any kind of active sport. Like I probably shouldn't even like run because I feel like my body will break continuously. So to know that he's trying to still play baseball, and I think he's maybe younger than I am, but not by much. For him to still try to play a sport that does require so much out of you blows my mind. So I genuinely feel for him. But at the same time, I'm just like, I suffered so much and I don't want to go through that again. So if they could break that record and then the White Sox don't look as bad in comparison, it would be a win for me.
okay.
Because and I don't want to put that on anybody, but at the same time, I'm just like, yeah, but it would take the White Sox out of the equation again, and we won't have to worry about that again, maybe. Probably not. I mean, they'll probably still be really bad, but to know that I can look to a team this season and say, oh, at least we're not the Rockies.
It's
Feels
funny
good.
because the White Sox spent all of that time of like they didn't win since 1917, and then the Red Sox haven't won since 1918, and the Red Sox win the World Series, and the White Sox win the World Series the very next year. Like it would be fairly hysterical symmetry for the Rockies to just come right out and be like, "Nope, see ya, we're the worst."
I'm for it. Just I'm for not being the worst for a change. I'm tired of being like, I mean, ESPN doesn't really even recognize the White Sox. Like they forget they exist
Yep.
on a very regular basis. So to not be the worst, people are like, oh, it's the Rockies now. I'm like, thank you for removing this burden from me. It's a very hard life being a White Sox fan some days, but now we've got the Pope on our side, so it's okay.
Hey,
I'm
Pope.
hoping that that's just the solution. Also, you went very viral for your tweet about the Mets trolling the Cubs. I saw it
That was the game
everywhere.
where I got this shirt. Was that
Yes,
Mets Cubs game?
I saw it. Even some person on TikTok had it on a green screen, and I was like, "That's my friend. That's Jesse." And I'm like sending it to the Estrogen Power Hour group chat of, "Look, it's our boy.
Oh, that's
We
sweet.
were so proud of you." um, anyway, we will take a quick break and get into this series. Yay! Yeah. All right. Welcome back. We're going to talk about some pitching matchups. This first game, you probably know more about the White Sox starting pitcher than I do at this point. The first game is Adrian Houser versus Clay Holmes. The second series, we have Shane Smith and Tylor Megill. Shout out to Mama McGill, who follows me on Twitter. And then the third one is Sean Burke and Griffin Canning. So,
Okay.
that said, what
I've
can you
heard
tell
of
me about this Met Sox, or this Met Sox? That's me. This Mets pitching.
Okay, I've heard of Adrian Houser. So there's that. Sean Smith, no idea. And then Sean Burke. Was it Sean Smith?
Shane Smith.
Shane Smith, no
Sean
idea.
Burke.
And then
Yes.
Sean Burke, Hartford Whalers goalie from back in the day, so I know him too.
Yes.
And the White Sox having a Hartford Whalers goalie, and the Whalers obviously haven't existed in 20 years plus. That makes about as much sense as having Adrian Houser in the majors. Wow, he was freaking god awful with the Mets last year. Is he any better now?
69. Oh, I don't know. We just picked him up. He's very, very fresh off the boat.
Okay, yeah.
He pitched 69 nice innings for the Mets in 2024.
They were not. He was brutal to watch. He was not fun.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of wanted him to be good because like it would give you that confidence of like, oh, this guy was in Milwaukee. He's a guy that like David Stearns chose to like bring in and like no, it did not work. He was not good, and I'm surprised to see him back in the majors, but I guess not with the White Sox. Who is pitching for the Mets?
Clay Holmes, first
Clay
series.
Holmes. Clay Holmes has been great. Making that transition from reliever to starter. It's been really good and really solid. Like he's not obviously getting super deep into games because they're still working on getting him stretched out, but he's been really solid. Home runs have started to be a bit of an issue lately. But I think he certainly exceeded what you would have hoped for in any reasonable fashion. Coming in really like being sort of one of the leaders of the staff through the first 2 months of the season. Griffin Canning was in there. He's been really good, really solid. Not a guy who I knew a whole lot about before having been with the Angels and all that. I just mostly knew him as like, oh, he's got a name that makes for good puns sometimes. Then who's pitching the other game for the Mets?
Tylor Megill is pitching the second game. He's been interesting.
He's an experience because like when he's on, he's really freaking good. And like strikes guys out and gets ground balls, and it's like, how does any like he's got he's so huge, he's got this big downhill about his delivery and motion, and it's all working the right way. But it's also like I think probably because he's like the classic big dude, like the mechanics can get off, and then all of a sudden he's getting bounced around all over the park. Um, he's a classic 4 or 5 starter for a good team. Like sometimes he's real, real good, and then sometimes he's real, real not.
I like experience. That is a good way to describe him. I love him. I do. I will be a bit of an apologist for him. But there are times where I am watching Mets games and I'm like, I'm going to punch a wall. I'm going to turn into like a Chad and I'm going to punch this wall.
He starts nibbling. That's the yeah. So that can be frustrating. But
we can't all be Sengas, which that was a fun experience. I didn't tell you that we did get a Senga game.
Oh, cool!
And again, my husband, he had not been to Citi Field, and he had kind of dropped off baseball for a little bit because the White Sox were so bad. And it kind of just pushed baseball aside in general, despite him also being a Mets fan. And so that was his experience, was a very nice, like the weather was gorgeous. We had Senga. Pete Alonso had a great game. He got to see Edwin Diaz, so we got to do the whole trumpet thing.
Cool.
But he was unfamiliar with the little strikeout performance that the Mets put on for him. And he was just, as a nerdy gamer boy, he was so excited for that to happen. And he tried to record it, but he accidentally took a picture. And I was like, I got you, boo. So I recorded the Senga strikeout thing for him. For those unfamiliar, I will just have to link a video of it. I'll just post my video in it that I took. So excited about it. It was probably between that and the Shea Apple, it was like the best day of his life.
Where is the Shea Apple now? It had been like down by the bullpens. Is it still
It's
there?
outside now. Like the original Shea Apple is outside. We have a beautiful picture next to it.
Oh, like the one out at the very, very front of the stadium. Yeah. There was another apple that they had, I guess, that was because there's been multiple apples.
Yes.
Over time.
Yes, but we went. We saw the OG one out front, and he was just so excited. It might have been better than our wedding day. I don't know. I'd have to ask. We'll go back. He agreed to take a picture with me. He agreed to take a picture with me in front of it, so you could tell that he was enjoying himself at least today.
We've gotten some family shots out in front of that apple too. So it's a good place for. You get the ballpark right behind you. It's very cool.
I know, gorgeous, and it was like the game was over at like, I don't know, 4 or 5 p.m. So you just caught this kind of like really cool, like you're kind of switching over to that little like magic hour of the day. Chef's kiss. Anyway, so this is a silly, goofy question for you because we're playing the Mets, but who is the biggest threat on this Mets team to the White Sox right now?
I think it's Soto. I think you get the sense that like he's too good to struggle the way that he has, and I think that you see slumping player, struggling team. These two things often have a way of working each other out, and I think like if you're a White Sox fan, the last thing you want to see is slumping Juan Soto, right? Because you feel like that's when he's going to get right is against you. So I think that's the guy. It's also not too difficult. He's the best player that they have. So yeah,
he's very good, very good. And with that, what are then the keys for the Mets to win the series? Is it just Soto getting hot, or are there other factors in play here for them to win it all?
I think you want to get good starting pitching. You want to have the starting pitchers do what they have done for most of the season and set you up for success that way. And where things can get dicey is when you get into the bullpen early, especially like the Mets are coming off a series in Boston where they had to use a lot of bullpen. They obviously Friday night had to use a ton of bullpen in the 13 inning game, and then David Peterson. I think that he's not going to pitch in this series against the White Sox. David Peterson did such a job yesterday, Saturday. We're talking on Sunday and don't know what happened as far as the Mets bullpen usage on Sunday night against the Dodgers. But David Peterson went out and threw 7 2/3 innings against the Dodgers. Um, Only needed 4 outs from the bullpen, and that was all Edwin Diaz, and that was a huge boost for the Mets. And if they can continue to like give their bullpen a little bit of a breather here after a very, very tough stretch where they've played like the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Dodgers, the Cubs were in there before that. Um, I think that that's what obviously if you're the Mets, you want to sweep this series. It's the White Sox coming into your ballpark. You feel like you should sweep them. But even if you win 2 out of 3, you want to keep it in a way that you are managing for the long haul of this season, but at the same time not take your foot off the gas so much as to lose 2 out of 3 to the Chicago White Sox.
I mean, the Rangers did just lose 2 out of 3 to the White Sox. And it was a very close game this afternoon. It was kind of wild. Like they're one of their best pitchers. Obviously, they're missing a lot. We did not see DeGrom in this series, which was a bummer because I love him, but that would have been a very conflicting series for me had he played. He's part of the birthday triplet group with Colleen, myself. We love him.
Right.
And they were missing, like some pretty decent players. But they're the one pitcher that they had for, the first game was like the best. He had a super low ERA, and the White Sox made him look like a rookie. They were just teeing off on him. So that was kind of fun to watch. It's kind of embarrassing when you lose the series to the White Sox.
How many series have they won this year now?
That was like 3 or 4 now.
Okay.
They're getting back. They're hitting that. So we in our Southside Sox Slack, we have like a new metric, and it's like pre and post Pope Leo. And we're like hitting that 500 streak in May of now that we've got Pope Leo on our side, we're doing better, and we're
Texas. Texas not a very Catholic friendly situation.
Well, I don't know. They don't host a Pride Night.
Yeah.
So.
Well, but the Pope is for.
Does he like the gays?
For welcoming. Well, as much as a Pope can, I think.
It's kind of why I left the whole Catholic Church and all. So
feel like you're grading on a curve. I think Pope pretty good on like just wanting to have everybody be loved and saved. So
he does not love JD Vance though, and I do appreciate that.
Right. So yeah, score 1 for the Pope and score 1 for the White Sox.
He was just recently enshrined at Wright Field. There is now a beautiful mural outside of, I think, section 141 that is where he was sitting for the World Series game he attended. So now there is a Pope mural outside on the brick of that section. I can't wait to go see it when I'm there in like a week. It's going to be beautiful. I'll send you a picture.
Please do.
So with that, with the Pope blessing and the White Sox, like teetering that 500 in May thing, what are your fears heading into this series?
I think starting pitching. I think it's always like guy has a bad start, disaster start, then things spiral out of control, and then you can lose a close game the next day, and then next thing you know, you've lost a series. I think that's always there. I don't think that if you're the Mets, if you're a Mets fan, you never really have your guard down and think like, oh, this is easy pickings, because you're still rooting for the Mets, and you just always kind of hoping that you can get through it without anything too stupid happening. So I think the White Sox have ways of bringing the stupid out of you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, just in a very vibes-based kind of way. A lot of your stupider games will involve the Mets or will involve the White Sox. So it is a clash of two of Major League Baseball's most chaotic teams, chaotic franchises. So I think you've got to watch out for that because, yeah, on paper there's nothing for the Mets to worry about, but you worry about the fact that it's baseball and shit happens all the time.
Baseball is incredibly weird.
Yeah.
And I think I've mentioned this before. The vibes are like weirdly really good in Chicago right now. The new manager, Will Venable, has kind of brought this really nice, fun, young energy to the team. They did just option Andrew Vaughn to Charlotte, so we're kind of like riding this vibe. Although they also optioned Tim Elko, so we don't have a first baseman, like a genuine first baseman. Yesterday it was Miguel Vargas at first. Today it was Lenine Sosa completely botching first base. It's interesting, but there are vibes, and they're kind of fun.
I think that's the other thing to mention is Pete used to be first base like being a botch fest. Pete Alonso's been really struggling to throw the ball lately. So that's something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I have noticed that he's also just struggling with running in general. I've seen a lot of really fun edits of him
Yeah,
running
and
home.
he like his bat has cooled off like that. He's so streaky as it is, and he was super hot in April, and he's been super not in May. And I think that's something that the Mets, you just have to accept about the Mets. Like when Pete Alonso is hot, they are really, really, really tough to deal with. But when he is not, it can be a struggle.
He's always my favorite hot himbo in my heart.
He's a wonderful, just what a delight. What a delight with not a single brain cell that is troubled by bumping into any others. There's plenty of room for them to roam around in that big, beautiful noggin of his.
No thoughts, just good times. I
Yeah,
love it. I wish I could live like that.
that's great.
I almost ran this story. I'm just completely derailing, but I went with Colleen. I think it was 2 seasons ago. Yeah, it's 2 seasons ago at this point, maybe. I don't know. We went to the Brewers home opener because they were playing the Mets,
Mm-hmm.
and went to our friend Jordan's old
That was
work
last year.
establishment. Yeah, okay, maybe it was last year. Time is weird. And we went to Jordan's fine establishment to eat breakfast. It was delicious. And he was like, oh, yeah, Pete will come to our restaurant. Like, he orders catering from our restaurant when the Mets are in town. And I was like, oh, that's cool, blah, 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 whatever. The next day, as Colleen and I are driving back home, we both get this text from Jordan, and it's a picture of him and Pete.
Oh
Because Pete
wow.
came in and had breakfast there before they were leaving or something. And I was like, I hate this because I would love to have a picture with Pete Alonso and I don't. So I was a little bitter about that. And so was Colleen. We still bring it up on occasion.
Yeah. Oh, reasonable.
But that
We
is
also
Jordan's
have a picture of Pete
that is
Alonso.
that's Jordan's display picture in my phone is him and Pete Alonso.
Okay.
So we've already moved away from the series, let's be completely honest, but moving away from our respective teams,
Yes.
how are you feeling about just this season overall? Do you have any fun takes or, just whatever?
I'm I don't know if this is a fun take, but this is another sort of
It could be a bad take. It's fine.
the Baltimore Orioles give me private equity vibes.
Okay. Please.
Like they spent all this time like putting all of their stuff together and getting it all nice and optimized, but then they had no idea what would actually make it work. And now it's just like all of these sort of like glossy features, like hyped up young players, but with no actual support system around them, no sense of pitching of any sort. And like the vibes all around just seem terrible.
Hmm.
Like they fired the manager. Everybody seems unhappy with the GM too. Um, they were so fun, like right up until they weren't. And I just, yeah,
They were
they
so
feel
fun
like,
last season, even. They were fun
yeah.
to watch, and then boom, it's like, oof, what happened here?
Yeah. Um, Also, I love the Red Sox's green monster uniforms. That's like the best thing that's happened in Major League Baseball this year.
Yes, yeah, I can 100% get behind that. I talked about that with Bailey on Soxy Chicks because she is a Red Sox
Hmm.
gal, and I said these are incredible, no notes, perfection. If I didn't hate all Boston sports, I would probably buy something in this line, but I can't support a Boston team.
I can give it to my Boston family, I guess, as a gift. But yeah, I do own one piece of Red Sox merch because I coached a little league team that was the Red Sox when
Mm-hmm.
um, back before the pandemic. So I got myself off of eBay the Sam Malone like Red Sox starter jacket to wear, and it
I
rocks.
I own a Red Sox shirt, but only because when I go to a ballpark, I buy a shirt
Hmm.
so that I can one day create a really neat quilt to celebrate my accomplishment when I do hit every ballpark,
Okay.
since that is my goal. It was very hard to find one in Oakland, I will say that, because normally I'll get like a jersey so that I
Hmm.
can kind of have like a double-sided,
Yeah.
something fun. Like my Brewer shirt is an Andrew McCutcheon shirt
Oh wow.
from that brief period of time
Yeah.
there. So I try to like have fun with it, but there wasn't someone I cared enough about in Boston. So I just got like a neat kind of Fenway, but it is kind of that green color. Now that I'm like thinking back on it, it's kind of the same color as these New Jerseys. And then in Oakland, there was no one, and it was hard enough to find anything that even said Oakland on it. So it's really just a pretty generic green shirt that says athletics.
I'm sad I never made it to a game in Oakland. I walked past the Coliseum on my way to covering the playoffs in 2014 because I was staying in a hotel near the Coliseum, like expecting I had booked it like expecting that I was going to be covering the A's and the Giants, but only the Giants actually made it because the Royals won that crazy ass game. Um, I wish I had seen a game there. Like I love a good dump. Uh,
It was
quite honestly.
it was special. And people, give it so much shit, and I get it. It had kind of turned into a dump by the
Yeah.
time we made it there, but it still had so much charm, and they had vanilla Coke in bottles. And that was all that really mattered to me because that's the only like soda I drink. Um
I
I
have not seen that in a ballpark setting.
Exactly. You can barely find it in any setting. It's hard to find vanilla Coke in bottles these days, but they had one there, and everything was like closed down, but we still had a really good time. It was like a Tuesday afternoon, and there were a bunch of drunk people just hanging out, yelling at the team. The A's won that
Yeah,
game. Um, it was fun, but you know,
that's all you
honestly,
need.
you mentioned 2014 Giants, and I got really excited. That was good.
That
That
was
was a
so
good time
cool.
for me.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah. But yeah, I feel for those Oakland people because it was special. I could see
Yeah.
why it was loved and why A's fans are still very pissed off that it's gone. Not the best ballpark. I mean, we saw 3 ballparks on that trip, and Oracle was incredible. But
What a yeah. Fantastic.
Anyway, before this turns into just us chatting like friends, we'll cut this off. Thank you for coming on. Best of luck in the series. I am
You
just
too.
hoping that both teams have fun.
Go outside, get some exercise. Hopefully the weather will be a little bit better because it's been like April here
Yeah,
for the last week, and I'm sick of it.
it's like
So hopefully it'll
60
be
and
actual baseball
drizzly.
weather. Yeah.
Yeah, we have the Indy 500 going on, and I think it was like delayed for a bit because of the rain.
It was. Okay. Indianapolis is in the Eastern time zone.
It is. Not all of Indiana is in the Eastern time zone.
God,
So,
the
like, you get
freaking
basically,
sorcery.
I don't know where. Well, actually, I mean, I know exactly where it cuts off when I'm driving back into Illinois. It cuts off where all the crazy windmill things are. So, like, before you hit West Lafayette, where Purdue is,
Yeah.
before you hit West Lafayette, it switches over and it goes to the Central Time Zone. So anything kind of north where West Lafayette is moves to Central. So like Notre Dame, they're in Central. At least I'm pretty sure. And like the region, so kind of that little like armpit of Chicago, they're Central.
Right.
But then
That
anything,
it makes sense for the Chicago part to be central, and it
yeah,
makes sense. Yeah, I thought because I
because
guess
you hit Purdue University, you're about an hour and a half away from Chicago.
okay.
Because that's kind of my halfway point. That's how I know.
I
But
just know
yeah,
from driving through. I thought that it was, but I guess I've driven through the north part, like going between Cleveland and Chicago.
yeah. And that's all Central. It's
Okay.
weird. It doesn't really make Indiana in general doesn't make any sense. It's why I don't love it. That's why I do prefer my time in Illinois, just in general. But yeah, no, we're
There's
Eastern
a lot of reasons to prefer Illinois to Indiana, but we don't.
a lot.
There's two Major League Baseball teams in Illinois and zero in Indiana. We'll leave it there.
Yeah, we just have the Pirates farm team. That's what we've got here. So fun. Pirates are not. I mean, Paul Skeens is fun, but the Pirates are rough to watch these days.
Yeah, they were just in here, so that was a fun little series that the Mets and Pirates played.
Yeah.
Mets took 2 out of 3.
I'm gonna go see them. I'm going to Pittsburgh to see the
Well,
Pirates and
that's
the White
have
Sox play.
have you been to that park?
That is my favorite park,
That one rules.
hands down. Out of, I think I'm at like 18 parks now. And I
Okay.
hear that Petco is probably the best. I have not made it to Petco yet.
Petco's right there with Pittsburgh and San Francisco. I think it's like a step below, but like you're
Yeah.
in San Diego, so that rules.
Yeah.
And personally, I love that the train yard is right there and you can like watch the trains happening too. So
Yeah. PNC, though, is the best I've been to, and I think will be very, very hard to top. And again, I loved Oracle. I thought Oracle was gorgeous. And I liked T-Mobile. That was the other one. We hit Seattle, we hit San Francisco, and we hit Oakland on that trip. But PNC will, I think, always be the best. So that was kind of why I agreed. I was like, we're going on Mac Miller Day for my child.
okay, nice.
And they're playing the sad White Sox. And who knows? Maybe I'll get Paul Skeens and Andrew McCutchen will hit like 5 home runs for me.
I hope so. Will he
That's
be?
cool.
Are you going around convention time for Andrew McCutchen?
It's July, so I don't.
I think
I
it
think that's
is
when Furries
July.
convention typically hits.
Yeah,
So we could have Furries run
Anthrocon.
hitting Andrew
That's what it's called.
McCutchen. That's all I know.
Anthrocon.
Yeah, that's Andrew McCutchen is one of my all-time favorite players. So
He
that's all I
rules.
can ask for.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Oh well. Well, that ends this furry podcast. Please remind people in case they did not see your very viral Pope tweet where they can find you.
You can go to @jessespector.com on Blue Sky. That's where I am, like posting wise now. I haven't written anything in months. I will at some point again be a productive, creative content making person, but haven't found the stroke for it in a while. So
That's okay. You can always still look at Casual Die Hard. We have fun things like
yeah,
the podcast that Colleen and I put together.
you can just go subscribe to Visiting Dugout and you'll hear the theme song that I insert at the beginning and end of every episode.
It's beautiful. Jesse, you do great work with that theme
Thank you,
song.
Chris. You guys are great.
Okay, yeah, and currently you can watch live as Jesse talks about all of the things he hates because he was grumpy and people liked his little
Oh yeah,
heat, and
there's
now
a
he's
whole
just giving hot takes.
yeah. One like equals one unpopular opinion thread has gotten out of control.
I love
So
it.
I'll
All
let you
right,
know.
well, thank you so much. We will chat again soon, probably
Thank
via
you.
text next week.
All right.
All right, bye.
Bye.